In the summer of 1987, the village of Qingshan in Henan buzzed with the rhythm of a new China. Bicycles rattled along dirt paths, bells chiming past fields of golden wheat, while loudspeakers blared the news of economic reforms sweeping the nation. The air carried the scent of coal smoke and freshly turned earth, mingling with the chatter of villagers eager to seize opportunities in the burgeoning market economy. Qingshan, nestled between rolling hills and a winding river, was a place where tradition clung tightly. Confucian values of duty and family shaped every marriage and meal. But the promise of wealth in southern cities like Shenzhen whispered change. Lisa, 22, stood at the heart of this world, her family's two-story brick house symbolizing their once unrivaled wealth. Her parents, respected landowners, had perished in a devastating flood the previous year, leaving her their estate, acres of fertile land, a chest of gold jewelry, and a legacy of generosity. The village mourned with her, but Lisa bore her grief alone with her warm smile and quiet strength. Her only solace was Daniel, her fiancé since their school days, a man whose charm and ambition outshone his modest roots as a tailor's son. His promises filled the void left by her loss, painting a future where they'd rise together. Daniel's dream was bold: to join the wave of entrepreneurs flooding Shenzhen, a city transforming into a hub of factories and fortunes under Deng Xiaoping's reforms. "The South is where the future is, Lisa," he'd say, his dark eyes alight, pacing her courtyard. "I'll build a trading company and import radios and bicycles, things the city craves, but I need capital to start." Lisa, who'd grown up weaving tales of adventure with him by the river, believed in his vision. She saw not just a husband, but a partner who'd honor her sacrifices with love. Their son, Xiao, born 6 months ago and now cradled in her arms, bound them further. His tiny hands, grasping her fingers, made every risk feel worthwhile. The decision wasn't easy. Selling her family's land meant severing ties to her parents' memory. The gold jewelry, her mother's wedding gift, carried stories of love etched in every curve. Yet Lisa's heart, tethered to Daniel's dreams, urged her forward. At the village market, she stood resolute as buyers haggled over her fields. Old Wang, the grain merchant, shook his head. "You're giving up everything for that boy. What if he fails?" Lisa smiled, Xiao's weight steadying her. "He won't. I trust him." By dusk, her assets were gone, converted into a stack of yuan notes she handed to Daniel under the flickering oil lamp in their home. Daniel's gratitude seemed boundless. He knelt before her, clasping her hands. "Lisa, you're my everything. When I succeed, I'll make you the happiest woman alive. You and Xiao will want for nothing." His words, fervent and tender, wrapped around her like a quilt. She imagined a future in Shenzhen, a modern apartment, Xiao in a proper school, and Daniel by her side, their love stronger for the trials. The village, steeped in gossip, watched with mixed awe and skepticism. "She's brave," said Auntie Lee, the noodle vendor. "Or foolish," muttered others, wary of men chasing city dreams. As Daniel prepared to leave, Lisa packed his bag with dried persimmons and a scarf she'd knitted, her fingers lingering on the wool. Xiao gurgled in his cradle, unaware of the journey ahead. The night before his departure, they sat under a willow tree, the river murmuring nearby. "I'll write every week," Daniel promised, tracing her cheek. "I'll bring you both to the city in 3 years, maybe 4. Lisa nodded, her throat tight. She didn't ask about the risks, failed ventures, debt, or the lure of city women. Love, she believed, would anchor him. The morning he left, Qingshan gathered to see him off. Bicycles lined the road, and children waved as Daniel boarded a creaking bus, his suitcase stuffed with her savings. Lisa held Xiao, her eyes fixed on Daniel's waving hand until the dust swallowed the bus. The village felt quieter, and the hills were less vibrant. She returned to her now smaller home, its walls echoing with absence. Xiao's cries filled the nights, and Lisa's days became a rhythm of childcare and weaving, her hands busy to keep doubt at bay. Letters from Daniel arrived sporadically, filled with tales of Shenzhen's chaos, factories springing up, markets overflowing with goods. "It's hard, but I'm learning," he wrote. "Your money's safe, invested in a deal for radios." Lisa clung to his words, reading them by lantern light to Xiao, who babbled in response. The village, meanwhile, buzzed with rumors. "Heard Daniel's living big in the city," a neighbor whispered. Lisa dismissed it, her faith unshaken. She didn't know then that Daniel's heart, swayed by ambition, was drifting toward a past love, Emily Parker, his childhood sweetheart, who'd once spurned him but now hovered on the edges of his new world. Unseen by Lisa, a deeper force stirred. The flood that took her parents had disturbed an ancient shrine in the hills, its stone carvings tied to legends of karmic cycles. Village elders whispered that souls were granted second chances, bound to right wrongs or repeat them. Lisa's sacrifice, pure but precarious, set this cycle in motion. Her love for Daniel, Xiao's future, and the wealth she'd given would shape a story of trust, betrayal, and rebirth, one that would test her heart and rewrite her fate. By 1992, Shenzhen had morphed into a glittering maze of concrete and neon, starkly contrasting with the sleepy fishing village it once was. Towering factories churned out radios and textiles, while markets buzzed with hawkers selling everything from knockoff watches to steamed buns. The city pulsed with China's economic boom, drawing dreamers and schemers alike. Lisa, now 27, stepped off a rattling bus into this chaos, clutching her 4-year-old son, Xiao, whose wide eyes darted at the skyscrapers. Daniel, her husband, had summoned them from Qingshan village. His letters, once sparse, now brimming with pride. "I've made it, Lisa. Join me." Daniel's trading company, built on Lisa's sacrificed inheritance, had flourished. He dealt in electronics, exporting radios and TVs to Hong Kong and beyond. Perched in a sleek high-rise, his office overlooked Shenzhen's frenetic streets. When Lisa and Xiao arrived, Daniel greeted them with a grin, his tailored suit a far cry from the patched jacket he'd worn in Qingshan. He said, "Welcome to our new life," sweeping Xiao into his arms. Lisa, in her simple cotton dress, felt a flicker of awe. The apartment he'd rented, spacious with a tiled floor and a refrigerator humming in the corner, seemed a world away from their village home. Yet the city's clamor, honking horns, and sharp-eyed strangers unsettled her. Daniel's success came with surprises. That evening, as Lisa unpacked Xiao's clothes, a woman entered the apartment, her heels clicking on the floor. She was striking, willowy, with permed hair and a silk qipao that hugged her frame. "This is Emily Parker," Daniel said, his tone casual. "My childhood sweetheart from Qingshan. She'll be staying with us." Lisa's stomach tightened. Emily, who'd once spurned Daniel for his poverty, now stood in their home, her smile polite but sharp. Daniel explained that she's fallen on hard times. "I offered her a job as our maid to compensate for how she treated me. You're the lady of this house, Lisa. Always." Laced with reassurance, his words eased her doubts, but Emily's presence lingered like a shadow. Emily's story was one of ambition gone astray. Raised in Qingshan's poorest quarter, she'd dreamed of city glamour, leaving Daniel for a wealthy merchant who promised her the world. The merchant abandoned her, and Shenzhen's cutthroat streets left her scraping by as a factory worker. When Daniel, now wealthy, crossed her path, she saw a chance to reclaim her past. Unknown to Lisa, Emily carried fragments of a past life, vague memories of Daniel's success and her regret, stirred by the same ancient shrine that would later awaken Lisa. These echoes drove her to seek Daniel, masking her motives with humility. Lisa, trusting Daniel's intentions, welcomed Emily. She taught her to cook village dishes, hoping to bridge the gap. Xiao, shy at first, warmed to Emily's playful songs, calling her auntie. But cracks soon appeared. Daniel's attention drifted. When Emily caught a fever, he canceled a crucial deal to rush her to the hospital, leaving Lisa to soothe Xiao's nightmares alone. "She's just a servant," Daniel insisted, returning at dawn. "I can't let her die on our watch." Lisa nodded, but his urgency felt personal, a betrayal cloaked in duty. Shenzhen's glittering skyline, visible from their window, mocked her growing unease. The city's culture, a blend of Cantonese bustle and northern grit, amplified Lisa's isolation. Neighbors in their building, mostly migrant workers, kept to themselves. Lisa missed Qingshan's communal warmth, shared meals and gossip over tea. She enrolled Xiao in a local kindergarten, but the teacher's clipped Mandarin made her feel like an outsider. Daniel, consumed by meetings, rarely joined them for dinner. His promises of family outings, to the new amusement park or the beach, faded into excuses. Lisa filled her days with housework, her hands scrubbing floors as if to anchor her fading dreams. Emily, meanwhile, thrived in subtle ways. She adopted city habits, painting her nails and humming pop songs from Hong Kong. Lisa noticed her lingering glances at Daniel and how he laughed at her jokes. One evening, as Lisa folded Xiao's clothes, she overheard them in the kitchen. "You've done well, Danny," Emily purred. "It's better than I ever imagined." Daniel's chuckle was soft and intimate. Lisa's heart sank, but she pushed the thought away. Daniel had chosen her, hadn't he? She clung to the memory of his vows in Qingshan, unwilling to see the truth. Cultural norms weighed heavily. In Qingshan, a wife's duty was to support her husband and to trust without question. Shenzhen, though modern, still judged women who challenged their place. Lisa confided in a neighbor, Mrs. Chen, who shrugged. "Men wander, keep your family first." Lisa nodded, but her resolve wavered. Xiao's laughter, his small hand in hers, kept her grounded. She wrote letters to Qingshan, describing the city's wonders to hide her loneliness. The village elder's reply hinted at deeper forces. "The shrine watches, child. Trust your heart." Lisa puzzled over the words, unaware of the karmic cycle binding her to Daniel and Emily. The tension simmered through small moments. Daniel brushed off Lisa's concern when Xiao scraped his knee but fussed over Emily's minor cough. At a company banquet, Daniel introduced Emily as his assistant, her elegant dress outshining Lisa's modest one. Guests whispered, their pitying glances cutting deeper than words. Lisa smiled through it, her village-bred resilience holding firm, but doubts gnawed. Was this the happiness Daniel promised? Shenzhen's wealth had elevated them, but at what cost? As months passed, Lisa shrank to caretaker, cooking, cleaning, and soothing Xiao while Daniel and Emily navigated the city's elite circles. The apartment, once a symbol of promise, felt like a cage. Emily's deference masked calculation. Daniel's affection felt rehearsed. Lisa lay awake at night, Xiao's soft breaths beside her, wondering if her sacrifice had been for nothing. The shrine's unseen influence, stirring memories of a past life, waited to unravel the truth, setting the stage for a betrayal that would burn brighter than Shenzhen's lights. In the autumn of 1992, Shenzhen's skyline glowed under a haze of factory smoke, its neon lights casting long shadows over Lisa's crumbling world. The city, a beacon of China's economic miracle, had turned cruel for her. At 27, Lisa felt like a ghost in her own home, a sleek apartment in a high-rise where her husband Daniel and his childhood sweetheart, Emily Parker, wove a life that excluded her. Xiao's 4-year-old son was her anchor, his curious questions about the city's big lights, a fleeting joy amidst her isolation. Daniel's trading company thrived, but his promises, to make Lisa the happiest woman, had withered under the weight of his growing devotion to Emily. The signs were undeniable. Daniel's late nights, once blamed on business, now ended with Emily's laughter echoing through the apartment. When Xiao fell ill with a fever, Daniel dismissed Lisa's pleas for a doctor, yet he drove Emily to the hospital for a sprained wrist, his urgency betraying more than duty. Lisa was raised in Qingshan village, where a wife's role was to endure and swallow her pain. Shenzhen's modern pulse clashed with her rural values. Neighbors gossiped about city men and their mistresses, but none offered solace. Emily, ever the chameleon, played the dutiful maid in Lisa's presence, her deference a mask for the intimacy she shared with Daniel behind closed doors. Emily's motives ran deeper than Lisa knew. Reborn with fragments of a past life, stirred by Qingshan's ancient shrine, Emily recalled her regret for abandoning Daniel before his success. In this life, she'd maneuvered back into his orbit, her factory job a stepping stone to his wealth. Her smiles hid a hunger, not just for Daniel, but for the life Lisa's sacrifice had built. The shrine's karmic cycle, whispered of by village elders, bound the trio in a dance of trust and treachery, its power dormant but poised to erupt. The breaking point came on a humid October night. Lisa was tucking Xiao into bed, his small hand clutching a paper crane she'd folded, when the smell of smoke seeped through the apartment. A faulty wire in the building's overtaxed electrical system had sparked a fire, its flames licking the walls. Alarms blared, and panic seized the high-rise. Lisa scooped Xiao into her arms, her heart pounding as she stumbled toward the door. Daniel grabbed Emily's hand in the living room first, his eyes wild. "Stay close!" he shouted to her, pushing past Lisa. The hallway was a choke of smoke, and neighbors were screaming as they fled. Lisa called for Daniel, her voice hoarse, but he didn't turn back. Clutching Xiao, she navigated the stairwell, flames roaring below. A beam collapsed, trapping them in a corner. the heat searing her skin. Xiao's cries pierced her heart. Through the haze, she saw Daniel and Emily reach the exit, his arm around her. Lisa screamed his name, begging for help. But Daniel hesitated momentarily before disappearing into the night, Emily at his side. The betrayal burned hotter than the flames. As the fire closed in, Lisa shielded Xiao, whispering, "I love you," as darkness claimed them. Pain vanished. Lisa's eyes snapped open to a different world, the soft glow of lanterns and a crowd's murmur. She stood in Qingshan village, her white wedding dress heavy with embroidery, the air thick with jasmine and anticipation. It was June 1987, her wedding day to Daniel, 5 years before the fire. Her hands trembled, Xiao's absence a void in her arms. The village square, adorned with red banners and paper lanterns, bustled with neighbors in Mao suits and qipaos, their faces frozen in time. Young and earnest, Daniel adjusted his tie nearby, oblivious to the future. Lisa's mind reeled. Memories of the fire of Daniel's choice crashed against the joy around her. Was this a dream? A second chance? She touched her cheek, feeling the smoothness of youth, unmarred by city hardships. A village elder, Auntie Zhang, approached, her eyes sharp. "The shrine's will," she whispered, pulling Lisa aside. "The flood disturbed its spirits. Those wronged like you may return to right the cycle. But beware, others may walk this path too." The shrine, hidden in Qingshan's hills, was a relic of ancient lore, its stone carvings said to bind souls across lifetimes. Lisa's death, tied to her sacrifice and Daniel's betrayal, had triggered its power. The weight of rebirth settled on her. She saw Daniel laughing with guests, his charm masking the greed she now knew. Emily, absent from the wedding but lurking in Qingshan's shadows, was likely reborn too, her motives unclear. Lisa's heart hardened. In her first life, she'd given everything, her wealth, love, son, for a man who'd left them to burn. Xiao's loss cut deepest, a wound she'd carry forever. But this time, she'd protect herself. The shrine's gift was not just a chance to live again, but to rewrite her fate. As the ceremony began, Lisa stood before the officiant, her veil trembling in the breeze. Daniel took her hand, his smile radiant, but her eyes were cold. She scanned the crowd, seeking a familiar face. Jason, her childhood friend, now a soldier, who'd once promised to marry her. His absence stung, but she vowed to find him. The shrine's cycle had begun, and Lisa would not be its victim again. Daniel's vows rang hollow, each word a spark igniting her resolve. The fire that took her life would not define her. She'd forge a new path, one where betrayal had no hold. In June 1987, Qingshan village shimmered under a summer sun, its dirt lanes festooned with red lanterns and paper couplets for Lisa's wedding to Daniel. The square buzzed with life, tables laden with steamed buns, braised pork, and rice wine, while children darted through the crowd, chasing firecrackers. Qingshan, a rural pocket in Henan, clung to Confucian traditions. A wedding was a communal vow, binding families under heaven's gaze. Yet China's economic reforms stirred the air, with whispers of city wealth challenging old ways. Lisa, 22, stood in her embroidered wedding dress, her heart heavy with reborn memories of betrayal and loss. The shrine's gift had thrust her back to this day, hours before she'd bind her life to Daniel, the man who'd one day abandon her and their son, Xiao, to flames. Xiao, unborn in this timeline, was a phantom ache in her arms, his absence a reminder of her first life's cost. The village elder's words echoed. The shrine, disturbed by the 1986 flood, granted second chances to right karmic wrongs, but others, Daniel, Emily, might be reborn too. Lisa scanned the crowd, her veil framing a face no longer naive. Daniel, dashing in a borrowed suit, chatted with guests, his charm masking the greed she now saw clearly. The ceremony began under a canopy of red silk, the officiant's voice intoning blessings. Lisa's hand rested in Daniel's, his warmth a cruel echo of promises broken. Her eyes darted to the hills, seeking Jason, her childhood friend and a soldier who'd once proposed to her. His absence gnawed, but she steeled herself. She'd not repeat her past life's mistakes, her wealth, her love, squandered on a man who'd choose another. A piercing scream shattered the air as the officiant raised a scroll to seal their vows. Emily Parker burst into the square, her cotton dress torn, hair wild. The crowd gasped, their murmurs rippling like wind through wheat. Emily, Daniel's childhood sweetheart, had left Qingshan a year ago, chasing city dreams with a merchant who'd jilted her. She staggered toward the canopy, tears streaming, clutching a kitchen knife. "Danny, I love you," she wailed, her voice raw. "Don't marry her," villagers froze, their Confucian sensibilities, propriety, face, shattered by her brazen act. Auntie Lee, the noodle vendor, whispered, "Shameless," as others shielded the children's eyes. Lisa's reborn memories flared. Emily, reborn too, knew Daniel's future success from their past life. Raised in Qingshan's poorest alleys, Emily had spurned Daniel for his empty pockets, only to crawl back when he struck gold. Armed with fragmented visions of that life, she aimed to claim him before Lisa's wealth fueled his rise. Her desperation was a performance, but the knife at her wrist gleamed real, a calculated bid to sway Daniel. "If you marry her, I'll die," Emily cried, pressing the blade, a thin red line blooming on her skin. Daniel's face paled, his hand slipping from Lisa's. He stepped toward Emily, hesitating, his eyes flicking between her and Lisa's dowry, land, gold, enough to launch his Shenzhen dreams. The crowd's whispers grew. "He's torn, what a scandal!" Lisa's heart, once soft for him, turned to stone. She saw his greed and weakness as clearly as the shrine's carvings. Daniel stammered. Emily put it down. "Let's talk." His voice, pleading, betrayed his choice. He'd save Emily, not out of love, but for the drama that might sway Lisa's fortune his way. Lisa ripped off her veil, the silk fluttering to the ground. "Enough," she said, her voice cutting through the chaos. "The wedding's off." Gasps erupted. Canceling a marriage was unthinkable in Qingshan, a stain on both families. Daniel spun, his charm crumbling. "Lisa, don't be rash, she's nothing to me." But his eyes lingered on Emily, now sobbing in the dirt. Lisa stepped forward, her gaze icy. "You hesitated, Daniel. I see who you are now. We're done." The crowd parted, their shock yielding to awe at her defiance. Emily's knife clattered to the ground, her act faltering under Lisa's stare. She lunged at Daniel, clinging to his arm, but he pushed her away, his face red with embarrassment. "Lisa, wait!" he called, but she turned, her dress sweeping the dust. The village's judgment settled on Emily, their whispers branding her a homewrecker. Lisa's mind raced, the shrine's cycle urging her forward. She needed an ally, someone trustworthy. Jason's name surfaced, his quiet strength a beacon. He'd joined the army and been stationed nearby, but rumors placed him in Qingshan, visiting family. As she crossed the square, a figure emerged from the crowd. Jason, tall in his faded military cap, his left hand bandaged from a flood relief injury. His eyes, warm with recognition, met hers. Lisa said softly, "I heard about the wedding." In their youth, he'd chased her through Qingshan's fields, promising marriage in jest. Now his presence grounded her. "Lisa said you once said you'd marry me," her voice steady despite the chaos. "Does that still count?" Jason's face lit with surprise, then resolve. "Always," he replied, his hand grazing hers. The square buzzed anew, villagers torn between scandal and intrigue. Emily's sobs faded, and the crowd's chatter drowned Daniel's protests. Lisa stood with Jason, her decision a spark in the shrine's cycle. She'd not be Daniel's pawn again. Watching from the dirt, Emily sensed her plan unraveling, her reborn memories no match for Lisa's clarity. The wedding was meant to bind Lisa to betrayal, but instead, it set her free, igniting a path where love, not greed, would guide her steps. The sun dipped low over Qingshan village, casting long shadows across the wedding square where Lisa's canceled marriage to Daniel still rippled through the crowd. It was June 1987, and the Henan air hung heavy with jasmine and the sting of scandal. Red lanterns swayed, their glow mocking the chaos that had unfolded hours earlier. Villagers lingered, their Mao suits and qipaos rumpled, whispering about Emily Parker's knife-wielding outburst that shattered Lisa's wedding. Qingshan, bound by Confucian codes of propriety, buzzed with judgment, but beneath the gossip lay a more profound truth. The ancient shrine in the hills, stirred by the 1986 flood, had woven Lisa, Daniel, and Emily into a karmic cycle of rebirth and retribution. Emily sat alone on a wooden bench at the square's edge, her cotton dress stained with dirt, her face streaked with dried tears. The knife she'd brandished lay confiscated by village elders, her dramatic plea for Daniel now a stain on her name. At 21, Emily was no stranger to Qingshan's scorn. Born in the village's poorest alley, where mud-walled huts sagged under leaky roofs, she'd grown up scavenging scraps while dreaming of city lights. Her beauty, sharp cheekbones, eyes like polished jade, had been her ticket out, or so she thought when she left Daniel for a wealthy merchant a year ago. The merchant's promises of Shenzhen's glamour crumbled, leaving her broke and bitter, a factory worker scraping by until Daniel's rising star drew her back. Emily's return wasn't mere chance. Like Lisa, she was reborn, her mind haunted by fragments of a past life granted by the shrine's enigmatic power. The flood that killed Lisa's parents had disturbed its stone carvings, and legends whispered of souls bound to right wrongs across lifetimes. Emily's memories were hazy but vivid. Daniel's wealth, her regret for spurning him, and Lisa's wealth fueling his empire. In that life, she'd clawed her way back to Daniel, living lavishly while Lisa suffered. In 1987, Emily saw a chance to rewrite her story, secure Daniel before Lisa's dowry did, ensuring her place in his future fortune. Her wedding crash was no impulse. Emily had lurked in Qingshan's market days before, overhearing plans for Lisa's marriage. Her reborn visions showed Daniel's Shenzhen success, tied to Lisa's gold and land. Jealousy and ambition churned. She'd not let Lisa, the village princess, claim what she'd once discarded. Emily's plan was bold: disrupt the wedding, feign love, and sway Daniel. The knife was theater, a desperate bid to appeal to his ego, but Lisa's defiance, canceling the wedding and turning to Jason, had thrown her off. As villagers whispered shamelessly, Emily's mind raced, recalculating her next move. In a quiet alley, away from prying eyes, Emily met Daniel under a flickering street lamp. His face, flushed with anger, betrayed his torn loyalties. "You've ruined everything," he hissed, pacing. "Lisa's money was my ticket to Shenzhen." Daniel, not reborn but driven by greed, saw Lisa's dowry as his path to wealth. Emily, though, held a trump card, her knowledge of his future. "Listen, Danny," she said, her voice low, calculated. "Lisa's done with you, but I'm not. Marry her still. Her wealth will fund your business, and I'll stay close. We'll share the spoils." Her eyes gleamed, masking the ache of a heart that loved him, warped by reborn ambition. Daniel hesitated, his rural upbringing clashing with city dreams. In Qingshan, marriage was sacred, but Shenzhen's promise, factories, markets, power, tempted him. Emily's plan was ruthless: convince Lisa to reconsider, play the repentant friend, and secure her trust. "I'll beg her forgiveness," Emily said, her voice softening to mimic sincerity. "She's soft-hearted. She'll listen." Daniel nodded, his greed outweighing his shame. Their pact, sealed in the alley's shadows, was a betrayal in waiting. But Emily's reborn memories gave her confidence. She'd seen the outcome once. She could shape it again. Meanwhile, Lisa, now at her family's brick house, wrestled with her reborn clarity. Xiao, her son from the past life, wouldn't exist in this timeline unless she married Daniel again, a thought that twisted her heart. As Auntie Zhang had warned, the shrine's cycle was a double-edged sword. Her second chance came with others' schemes. Lisa suspected Emily's rebirth. Her outburst was too precise, too knowing. A knock sounded as she folded her wedding dress, the silk heavy with lost dreams. Jason, her childhood friend, stood at the gate, his military cap tilted, a bag of malt candy in hand. "I'm here, Lisa," he said, his voice steady. "You don't have to face this alone." Emily's next move came at dawn. She appeared at Lisa's gate, her forehead bandaged from a staged fall, her eyes red with feigned remorse. "Lisa, I was wrong," she sobbed, kneeling in the dirt. "I shouldn't have ruined your wedding. Danny loves you. Marry him, please." Villagers passing by clucked their tongues, some pitying, others scorning. Lisa, standing tall, saw through the act. Emily's words echoed their past life. She'd played the victim to stay near Daniel. "Get up," Lisa said coldly. "Do you want him? Take him. I'm done." Emily's mask slipped, a flicker of panic betraying her plan's fragility. The village, steeped in gossip, watched the drama unfold. Qingshan's elders, guardians of tradition, urged Lisa to reconsider. Marriage preserved face, even after the scandal. But Lisa's reborn resolve was unshakable. She turned to Jason, his quiet presence a shield against Emily's deceit. Emily, sensing defeat, retreated to Daniel, their alliance fraying. Her reborn memories, once a guide, now taunted her with failure. The shrine's cycle churned, its justice looming. No longer the trusting bride, Lisa stood poised to outmaneuver the woman who'd once stolen her life, her heart set on a future free of betrayal. The twilight of June 1987 draped Qingshan village in a soft purple haze, the Henan hills silhouetted against a fading sky. In the aftermath of Lisa's cancelled wedding to Daniel, the town hummed with gossip, its dirt lanes alive with the clink of teacups and murmurs of scandal. Red lanterns from the aborted ceremony still hung in the square, swaying like ghosts of promises broken. Qingshan, rooted in Confucian ideals of duty and harmony, struggled to digest Emily's knife-wielding disruption and Lisa's bold rejection of Daniel. Yet, the winds of China's economic reforms stirred restless dreams, even in this rural enclave where bicycles now carried villagers toward market ambitions. Lisa stood in the courtyard of her family's brick house, the weight of her reborn memories pressing against her chest. At 22, she was no longer the naive bride who'd once poured wealth into Daniel's dreams. The shrine in Qingshan's hills, its ancient carvings awakened by the 1986 flood, had granted her a second life, a chance to escape the betrayal that ended with her and her unborn son, Xiao, consumed by fire. Xiao's absence in this timeline was a quiet ache, a reminder that her choices now would shape a different future. As Auntie Zhang had warned, the shrine's karmic cycle entangled others, Emily, possibly Daniel, in its web, their motives veiled but dangerous. As Lisa folded her discarded wedding dress, the silk was cool under her fingers, and a knock echoed at the gate. Jason Han, her childhood friend, stepped into the courtyard, his faded military cap tilted over dark eyes. At 24, he carried the quiet authority of a People's Liberation Army battalion commander, though Qingshan knew him as the lanky boy who'd once trailed Lisa through wheat fields. His left hand, bandaged from a flood relief injury, hung at his side, a scar of his sacrifice. In his other hand he held a cloth bag. "Lisa," he said, his voice warm but steady, "I heard about the wedding. I brought you something." He opened the bag, revealing malt candy, its sweet aroma a tether to their youth. Jason's presence was a balm. Jason's humility stood apart in Qingshan, where men boasted of city ventures. He'd joined the army at 18, rising to lead a battalion stationed in a nearby city. His duties, training soldiers and aiding disaster relief, kept him from the village, but he returned quietly, avoiding fanfare. The flood that took Lisa's parents had nearly claimed him too. A falling rock crushed his hand while he led rescues, leaving it stiff but functional. Unaware of his rank, villagers saw only a soldier, but Lisa knew the boy who'd once shared her dreams under Qingshan's willows. They sat on a stone bench, the candy's sweetness melting on Lisa's tongue. "You didn't have to come," she said, her voice soft. Jason smiled, his eyes crinkling. "I couldn't stay away. Daniel doesn't deserve you." His words, plain but earnest, stirred memories of their childhood. Racing to the river, Lisa wielding a broom to fend off bullies for him. He'd proposed once at 16, half joking before the army called him. With Daniel's betrayal exposed, that promise felt like a lifeline. Lisa's reborn clarity saw Jason anew, not just a friend, but a man whose loyalty outshone Daniel's flash. The village's culture pressed on her. Qingshan expected women to marry to preserve family honor, especially after a public scandal. Auntie Lee, passing by with a basket of noodles, clucked, "Finds a good man quickly, and Lisa or tongues will wag." Lisa's dowry, land, gold, made her a target for suitors, and a prize Daniel and Emily still coveted. Emily's reborn scheme, Lisa suspected, aimed to lure her back to Daniel, securing her wealth for their Shenzhen ambitions. The shrine's cycle, binding their fates, demanded Lisa, "Choose wisely, lest history repeats itself." Jason's military life added complexity. His battalion, tasked with securing Henan's infrastructure amid reform-driven growth, left little room for personal ties. "I'm not whole anymore," he said, lifting a scarred hand. "Last year, moving rocks to save a family happened. If we married, you'd leave Qingshan for my post. It's not an easy life." His honesty, raw and unguarded, contrasted Daniel's hollow vows. Lisa touched his bandage, her fingers steady. "I chose you for who you are, not your hands. With my parents gone, nothing is holding me here." The moment crystallized her resolve. In her past life, Jason had protected her, sending food when she struggled alone with Xiao, his care veiled to preserve her dignity. Now, reborn, she saw his steady, unspoken love where Daniel's had been a mirage. Lisa said you once said you'd marry me, her voice firm. Does that still count? Jason's face lit with joy, tempered by awe as if handed a miracle. Lisa, I'd give everything for you, he said, his good hand clasping hers. But the army needs approval for marriage. It'll take time. Qingshan's night settled around them, fireflies dancing in the courtyard. The village, still reeling from the wedding's collapse, would watch their next steps. Emily and Daniel, plotting in shadows, loomed as threats, their reborn greed a spark in the shrine's cycle. Lisa, no longer bound by duty to a traitor, chose Jason's quiet strength over Daniel's glittering lies. As they shared the last piece of candy, its sweetness and promise of trust, Lisa felt the shrine's gaze, approving, yet warning. Her new path, forged with Jason, would challenge the cycle's pull, setting the stage for a reckoning with those who'd betrayed her. July 1987 sweltered over Qingshan village, Henan, the summer heat pressing down on fields of ripening wheat. The town, a patchwork of mud brick homes and bicycle-lined lanes, pulsed with the rhythm of China's economic reforms. Market stalls brimmed with radios and polyester dresses, symbols of a nation chasing prosperity. Yet Qingshan's heart remained Confucian, its gossip fierce after Lisa's cancelled wedding to Daniel, disrupted by Emily's knife-wielding plea. The ancient shrine in the hills, stirred by the 1986 flood, wove a karmic cycle through Lisa, Emily, and Daniel, its reborn players locked in a dance of trust and treachery. Lisa, 22, stood in her family's courtyard, her reborn memories a shield against past betrayals. In her first life, Daniel's greed and Emily's cunning had cost her everything: her wealth, her son Xiao, and her life in a Shenzhen fire. Xiao, unborn in this 1987 timeline, was a silent spur to her resolve. The shrine's gift, as Auntie Jiang had whispered, returned her to rewrite her fate. But Emily's calculated wedding crash proved she too was reborn, her fragmented visions of Daniel's future wealth driving her schemes. No longer the village's trusting heiress, Lisa was ready to turn their greed against them. Emily's latest ploy arrived at dawn. She knelt at Lisa's gate, her forehead bandaged from a stage stumble, her voice thick with feigned remorse. "Lisa, I was wrong to ruin your wedding," she sobbed. "Danny loves you, marry him, please." Daniel loomed behind, his charm strained. Villagers, hauling baskets to market, paused to gawk, their whispers sharp. "She's groveling now?" Qingshan's code demanded harmony, but Lisa saw Emily's tears as theater, her reborn plan to secure Lisa's dowry for Daniel's Shenzhen dreams. "Stand up," Lisa said, her tone ice. "Do you want him? He's yours." But Emily persisted, her desperation a calculated mask. Lisa's mind churned. Direct refusal risked Daniel's persistence. Qingshan's elders still urged her to wed to save face. Instead, she crafted a trap, inspired by the market's new credit system. Vendors now offered loans, betting on reform-era wealth. "All right," Lisa said, her smile disarming. "Let's plan a grand wedding. You two handle the purchases: dresses, jewelry, a radio, and a bicycle. I'll pay later." Emily's eyes lit with greed, Daniel's with relief. They nodded, unaware of the snare. Lisa's wealth, still in savings, was her leverage. She'd expose their selfishness without spending yuan. The village market, a sprawl of canvas stalls, became their stage. Her laughter giddy, Emily, reborn with memories of Shenzhen's luxuries, dove in, selecting silk qipaos and gold bangles. Envisioning his city empire, Daniel added a shiny radio and a phoenix bicycle, symbols of status. Lisa would love these. Emily lied, and her choices were tailored to her frame. Villagers watched, intrigued by the spree, unaware of Lisa's gambit. The couple's purchases, all on credit under Lisa's name, piled high, their confidence closing their eyes to the debt accruing. Days later, they returned to Lisa's courtyard, arms laden with goods. Emily twirled in a qipao, the silk too small for Lisa, while Daniel showcased the radio's tinny tunes. "For our wedding," he said, his grin forced. Lisa's dog, Blackie, growled at their intrusion, sensing deceit. She inspected the hall, none fit her, none meant for her. "Beautiful," she said, her voice honeyed. "But I'm not paying, and I'm not marrying you." Daniel's face fell, and Emily's smile froze. "What?" he sputtered. Lisa stepped forward, her gaze piercing. You bought for yourselves, not me. Pay your debts. The courtyard crackled with tension. Unlike in its old barter days, Qingshan's market enforced contracts. Vendors would demand repayment. Emily stammered, Lisa, you promised. But Lisa's reborn clarity saw their game. Emily's plan to wed Daniel to her wealth, Daniel's greed for her gold. I promised nothing, she said. You assumed. Daniel's fists clenched, but Blackie's bared teeth held him back. Lisa's voice rose, steady. I'm done with your lies. I'm married to Jason. She held up a red marriage certificate, fresh from the military's approval, her union with Jason sealed days earlier. Jason emerged from the house, his battalion commander's presence quiet but commanding. His scarred hand, a relic of flood relief, rested on Lisa's shoulder. Leave, he said, his tone final. Drawing by the commotion, villagers gathered, their murmurs shifting from scorn to admiration. Lisa's trap had flipped the village's narrative. She, not Emily, held power. Daniel's face reddened, and Emily's mask crumbled. Their debts, now public, loomed like the shrine's judgment. You'll regret this, Daniel spat, but his threat was hollow, drowned by Blackie's bark. Qingshan's evening settled, the market's lanterns glowing. Lisa and Jason stood together, her trap a triumph of wit over greed. The shrine's cycle, binding their fates, seemed to nod. Lisa's choice of Jason, her refusal to fund betrayal, tilted the scales. Emily and Daniel, retreating to plot anew, faced a village now wise to their schemes. Lisa, her dowry safe, felt Xiao's absence soften. Her new life with Jason promised a future where love, not deceit, would prevail. The trap, sprung with market cunning, marked her as Qingshan's latest hero, ready to face whatever the cycle held next. July 1987 baked Qingshan village in a relentless Henan sun, the air thick with the scent of dust and ripening grain. The town, a mosaic of mud brick homes and bustling market stalls, thrummed with the pulse of China's economic reforms. Canvas awnings shaded vendors hawking radios and synthetic fabrics, their wares a testament to a nation eyeing prosperity. Yet, Qingshan's soul remained tethered to Confucian values, honor, community, and retribution for broken trust. Lisa's clever trap, exposing Daniel and Emily's greed, had set tongues wagging, the cancelled wedding and their lavish debts now village legend. The ancient shrine in the hills, its carvings stirred by the 1986 flood, watched over the karmic cycle binding Lisa, Emily, and Daniel, its justice unfolding in the market's harsh light. Lisa, 22, stood in her courtyard, her reborn memories a quiet fire. In her past life, Daniel's betrayal and Emily's cunning had consumed her wealth and her son, Xiao, in a Shenzhen inferno. Xiao, unborn in this 1987 timeline, lingered as a tender ache, urging her to protect her future. The shrine's gift had returned her to rewrite her story, and her trap, luring Daniel and Emily to buy wedding goods on credit, then refusing to pay, had flipped their scheme. Emily, reborn with visions of Daniel's wealth, and Daniel, driven by greed, now faced the consequences of their overreach. Lisa, married to Jason, her childhood friend and a battalion commander, felt the cycle tilt in her favor. The market became a stage for their downfall. Daniel and Emily, laden with unpaid debts for silk chipaos, gold bangles, a radio, and a Phoenix bicycle, tried to return their haul. Vendors, emboldened by reform-era contracts, refused. "Pay up or we sue," barked Old Wang, the cloth merchant, his ledger open. Qingshan's market, once a place of barter, now enforced written agreements, a shift Daniel hadn't grasped. Emily, her reborn confidence fraying, pleaded, "It was for Lisa," but the vendors, wise to her lies, laughed. "Lisa's with the soldier now. You dug your hole." Villagers gathered, their whispers sharp. Greedy fools thought they'd trick her. Daniel's temper flared. In the market's center, he shoved a stall, scattering bolts of fabric. "We'll pay later," he shouted, but the crowd jeered. Emily, her face pale, tugged his arm, her reborn visions of wealth crumbling. Daniel swung at a vendor who turned back, and a scuffle broke out. Armed with batons, village guards hauled them to the local station, their debts now a public disgrace. By dusk, they were released, but the damage was done. To settle the bills, they sold their possessions, Emily's heirloom quilt, Daniel's father's watch, at a fraction of their worth, slashing prices like peddlers in a storm. Qingshan's judgment was swift. Neighbors shunned them, refusing even a shared meal, a grave slight in a village where community was sacred. Once a dreamer of city glamour, Emily trudged through alleys, her qipao traded for a patched dress. Daniel, his charm curdled, muttered of Shenzhen, but his dreams were shackled by debt. Their alliance frayed. Emily's reborn memories, which had fueled her wedding crash, now mocked her failure. She snapped at Daniel. "You needed Lisa's gold, not me." He glared back, their pact a casualty of the shrine's reckoning. Meanwhile, Lisa and Jason prepared their celebration. Their marriage, approved by the military, called for a modest feast, not the extravagance Daniel had craved. In Qingshan's square, tables groaned with dumplings, braised carp, and rice wine, the air bright with firecrackers. Villagers, once skeptical of Lisa's defiance, now toasted her cunning. She outsmarted them, cheered Auntie Lee, raising her cup. In a simple tunic, Jason stood beside Lisa, his scarred hand a badge of flood relief heroism. His battalion duties, securing Henan's roads and aiding villages, kept him grounded, and his love for Lisa was a quiet anchor. In a red dress sewn by her mother's pattern, Lisa felt joy bloom. Xiao's absence softened in the village's embrace. Her new life with Jason promised a family yet to come. She spoke briefly, her voice clear. "Thank you for standing with us. This is my home, and Jason is my future." The crowd roared, their blessings a shield against the shrine's darker threads. Jason's eyes, warm with pride, met hers. "You're braver than my soldiers," he whispered, his good hand squeezing hers. The feast stretched into the night, lanterns glowing like stars, Qingshan's heart beating with hope. Daniel and Emily, barred from the feast, skulked at the village's edge. Their barely settled debts left them penniless, their Shenzhen plans dust. Emily's reborn ambition, once a spark, now burned her. She'd misjudged Lisa's resolve. As Lisa stood radiant with Jason, the shrine's cycle seemed to close a chapter. Daniel's greed and Emily's cunning had reaped their due, while Lisa's trap, woven with market savvy, crowned her Qingshan's victor. As firecrackers popped, she looked to the hills, sensing the shrine's approval, ready for whatever the cycle held next. In late 1987, the military post near Zhengzhou, Henan, stood as a bastion of order amid China's reform-driven churn. Barracks of gray brick lined dusty paths, where soldiers drilled under poplar trees, their boots kicking up clouds in the crisp autumn air. The post, home to Jason Han's battalion, hummed with discipline, radios crackled with orders, and mess halls served steaming bowls of noodles and millet porridge. Beyond the gates, Henan's field stretched toward Qingshan village, where Lisa's triumph over Daniel and Emily still fueled gossip. The ancient shrine in Qingshan's hills, its carvings stirred by the 1986 flood, continued its karmic cycle, its influence a quiet pulse in Lisa's new beginning. Lisa, now 22, had left Qingshan's familiar lanes for this new world, her marriage to Jason a beacon after her reborn trials. In her past life, Daniel's betrayal had cost her everything, her wealth, her son Xiao, and her life in a Shenzhen fire. Reborn by the shrine's will, she'd outwitted Daniel and Emily, exposing their greed with a market trap that left them debt-ridden. Xiao, unborn in the timeline of her cancelled wedding, was now a reality again, a 3-month-old bundle cradled in her arms, born to her and Jason soon after their marriage. His soft gurgles filled their modest quarters, a single-room home with a cot, a wooden table, and mementos from Qingshan, a woven basket and a faded photo of her parents. The military post, though austere, was a community. Soldiers saluted Jason, their battalion commander, whose scarred left hand, crushed during flood relief, marked his sacrifice. His duties were relentless, overseeing drills, securing supply routes for Henan's growing factories, and leading disaster response. Yet he shed his stern facade at home, tickling Xiao until he squealed or brewed tea for Lisa. "This life suits you," he'd say, his eyes warm. Lisa, adapting to the post's rhythms, found purpose in small acts, sewing uniforms for soldiers and teaching Xiao to clap to army marches. The shrine's cycle, which had returned her to right wrongs, seemed to bless this quiet joy. Cultural shifts framed their life. China's reforms brought radios and bicycles to the post, but military discipline preserved old values: loyalty, duty, and family. Once Qingshan's heiress, Lisa embraced her role as a soldier's wife, though whispers of her market victory followed her. "She's no ordinary woman," a cook murmured, serving her dumplings. Lisa smiled, her dowry safe in savings, her heart anchored by Jason's love. Xiao's presence healed the ache of her past life's loss. His tiny hands, grasping her fingers, echoed the son she'd mourned, now reborn in a safer world. Jason's military background shaped their days. His battalion, tasked with supporting Henan's infrastructure boom, often sent him to nearby villages, where he oversaw bridge repairs or flood barriers. He shielded Lisa from the dangers, bandit raids on supply lines, grueling night patrols, but shared stories of his men's camaraderie. "They're my brothers," he said, showing her a carved wooden tiger, a gift from a soldier. His injury, though limiting, didn't dim his resolve. He trained with his right hand, his leadership earning respect. Lisa admired his balance of strength and tenderness, which contrasted with Neil's flash. Back in Qingshan, Daniel and Emily's lives unraveled. Their market debts, unpaid after selling meager possessions, drew the village's scorn. Daniel, his Shenzhen dreams deferred, worked odd jobs, hauling grain, repairing bicycles, his charm buried under creditors' glares. Emily, her reborn visions of wealth shattered, grew bitter. Her childhood poverty, which had fueled her ambition, now mocked her. She left Daniel, their pact broken, and turned to the market herself, selling steamed buns with a cunning that outpaced her remorse. By year's end, her stall thrived, her savings growing, a hint of the wealth she'd later wield. Lisa heard these tales through letters from Auntie Lee, Qingshan's noodle vendor. "Emily's clever but cold," the letter read. "Daniel's a shadow now." Lisa felt no glee, only relief. The shrine's cycle, which had entangled them, seemed to pivot. Her trap had freed her, while Emily's ambition carved a solitary path. Lisa's new life, though simple, was rich with purpose. She hung Qingshan's woven mats on their walls, their patterns a home link. Xiao's laughter and Jason's quiet hum as he polished boots wove a tapestry of love that Daniel's betrayal could never touch. One evening, as stars pierced the Henan sky, Lisa and Jason sat outside, Xiao asleep in a sling. The post's bugle sounded a retreat, a mournful note blending with crickets. Lisa said, "You've given me more than I dreamed," her hand on Jason's scarred one. He chuckled, his breath visible in the cool air. "And you've made this barracks a home." Their laughter, soft and shared, sealed their bond. The shrine, its presence felt in the hill's silhouette, seemed to nod. Lisa's choice of Jason, her protection of Xiao, had honored its gift. As Qingshan's gossip faded, her new life stood firm, a foundation for the challenges the cycle might bring. In the spring of 1995, Qingshan village, Henan, stood transformed, yet familiar, its dirt lanes now paved with asphalt, dotted with motorbikes and neon-lit shops. China's economic boom had touched even this rural corner, with brick homes replacing mud huts and satellite dishes sprouting like mushrooms. Yet, Qingshan's heart beat with tradition. Elders sipped tea under willows, gossiping about harvests and scandals. The ancient shrine in the hills, stirred by the 1986 flood, still wove its karmic cycle through Lisa, Daniel, and Emily, its power a silent judge as their paths converged again. Lisa, now 30, had returned to Qingshan for a visit, her life rooted at Jason's military post near Zhengzhou. Her son, Xiao, 7 and bright-eyed, clutched her hand, marveling at the village's new bustle. Jason, a battalion commander, walked beside them, his scarred hand a relic of flood relief, his uniform crisp despite the dust. His duties, securing Henan's rail lines and training recruits, kept him busy, but he'd taken leave to join Lisa, his love, a steady flame. The shrine's gift had reborn Lisa to escape Daniel's betrayal, which had cost her Xiao in a past life's fire. With Xiao safe and Jason true, she felt the cycle's balance. The village market, alive with vendors hawking mobile phones and pirated cassettes, parted for Lisa's family. Her 1987 triumph, trapping Daniel and Emily in debt, had made her a legend. "There's Lisa, the clever one," murmured a fruit seller. She smiled, her dowry long invested in a Zhengzhou school, her wealth secure. Xiao tugged her sleeve, pointing at a kite stall. "Can we get one?" he asked. Jason ruffled his hair, nodding. Their ease, contrasting to Qingshan's past dramas, drew warm glances, but a shadow loomed, a sleek Mercedes screeching to a halt before them. Daniel stepped out, his designer suit gleaming, sunglasses perched on his nose. At 32, He had a vision of new money, and his tech startup in Shenzhen became a success after years of failure. Lisa, long time no see, he drawled, tossing his hair. Villagers gaped, their whispers swirling. He's back, rich now. Daniel's return wasn't mere chance. Like Lisa and Emily, his memories of their past life, Lisa's sacrifice, his betrayal, Emily's rise, had surfaced in dreams, driving him to reclaim her. The shrine's cycle, binding their fates, had drawn him to Qingshan, his wealth a tool to rewrite his regrets. He thrust a gift bag at Lisa, brimming with gold jewelry. "For you," he said, his voice thick. "I dreamed of us, Lisa. You gave everything, your gold, your trust, for my business. I failed you, but I'm here to make it right." His eyes, red with emotion, sought hers, but Lisa's face was stone. She knew his dream, their past life where he'd saved Emily, leaving her and Xiao to burn. The jewelry, a glittering bribe, mocked her pain. Xiao clung to her, wary, while Jason's hand tensed, his military calm masking fury. Emily emerged from the crowd, a stark contrast. Her silk dresses were gone, and she wore a tattered jacket, her face bruised from a recent brawl. Once Qingshan's market queen, her Bunstall empire had collapsed under bad investments. Reborn with visions of wealth, she'd chased Daniel's success, only to fall when he failed. Now destitute, she knelt before him. "Danny, I was wrong," she sobbed. "I left you, but forgive me." Villagers sneered, their Confucian disdain for her fall sharp. Emily's reborn ambition, once her guide, now chained her to regret, the shrine's judgment clear. Daniel ignored her, his gaze fixed on Lisa. "I know I hesitated back then," he said, voice trembling. "I cared for you both, but I choose you now. Come with me. I can give you luxury." His words, a rehearsed plea, rang hollow. Lisa's reborn clarity saw his greed. Her wealth, not her heart, was his prize. Jason stepped forward, his voice low. "Enough. Lisa's my wife." He removed his cap, revealing his rank, and spoke to the crowd. "This man claims he saved Lisa in the '86 flood. He lied. I did." The market hushed. Jason's revelation, calm but searing, unraveled Daniel's myth. "I led the rescue," he said, lifting his scarred hand. "I found Lisa under a boulder and moved it with my bare hands. Rocks fell and crushed my hand, but she lived." Lisa's eyes welled, her past life's gratitude to Daniel shattered. Qingshan's elders nodded, their respect for Jason, the quiet soldier, cemented. Daniel's face paled, his reborn memories clashing with truth. Emily, still kneeling, and wailed. The shrine's light exposed her role in their past life's betrayal. Lisa faced Daniel, her voice steady. "Your dreams are lies. You chose Emily. Let us burn. Take your gifts and go." She handed back the bag, and its clink was final. Xiao hugged her leg, his trust in Jason unshaken. Daniel's swagger crumbled, his wealth powerless against truth. Emily's sobs grew frantic, her reborn hope to dust. The village, now a blend of old honor and new ambition, rallied behind Lisa, their cheers a chorus of justice. As Jason held Lisa close, the shrine's cycle seemed to close a wound, but its final act, Daniel's desperation, Emily's ruin, loomed, ready to test their peace. Spring 1995 draped Qingshan village, Henan, in a restless warmth, its paved streets and neon-lit shops a testament to China's relentless march toward modernity. Motorbikes buzzed past brick homes, where elders still burned incense for ancestors, blending Confucian duty with Reform-era ambition. The ancient shrine in the hills, awakened by the 1986 flood, wove its karmic cycle through Lisa, Daniel, and Emily, its final act unfolding in a clash of desperation and truth. The village market, where Lisa's 1987 trap had humbled Daniel and Emily, now buzzed with whispers of Daniel's return, his wealth a spark in Qingshan's quiet rhythm. Lisa, 30, stood firm in the market, and her son Xiao, 7, gripped her hand. Jason, her husband, and a battalion commander loomed protectively, his scarred hand crushed in the '86 flood, proof of his heroism. Their life at the Zhengzhou military post was a haven. Xiao's laughter a balm for Lisa's past life, where Daniel's betrayal had cost her son and her life in a Shenzhen fire. Reborn by the shrine's will, Lisa had outwitted Daniel and Emily, exposing their greed. Daniel's return, his dream of their past life a reborn memory, had failed to sway her. Jason's revelation, that he, not Daniel, saved her in the flood, had shattered Daniel's lies, leaving Emily, now destitute, begging in vain. Daniel's desperation boiled over. As Lisa turned to leave, Xiao's kite in hand, Daniel lunged from his Mercedes, his eyes wild. A knife flashed and pressed to Lisa's throat. "Come with me," he hissed, dragging her to the car. Xiao screamed, Jason's military comm cracking as he shouted, "Let her go!" Villagers froze, their market bustle halted by the glint of steel. Reborn with memories of his past life's power, Daniel clung to a twisted vision, Lisa as his prize, her wealth his redemption. The shrine's cycle, binding their fates, surged, its justice poised to strike. Jason rallied, his battalion training snapping into focus. He signaled a nearby soldier, who radioed for backup while keeping Xiao safe behind a stall. Daniel sped off, Lisa tied to the passenger seat, the Mercedes roaring past Qingshan's fields. "You can't escape me," Daniel ranted, his voice unhinged. "In my dream, you were mine. We'll start over, abroad, rich." Lisa's reborn clarity was sharp, and she stayed calm. "You're chasing a lie," she said. "Your dream was our death. You chose Emily." Her words, blades of truth, shook him, his knife trembling against her neck. The chase led to a dusty road beyond Qingshan, Henan's hills looming. Jason's military jeep, flanked by soldiers, closed in, their sirens a wail in the dusk. Daniel's car sputtered out of gas, forcing him to stop. He hauled Lisa out, knife steady now, facing the encircling troops. "Back off, or she dies," he yelled. At the front, Jason met Lisa's eyes, his voice steady. "Daniel, name your terms, please don't hurt her." His training, hostage drills, disaster response, kept him composed, but fear for Lisa and Xiao burned beneath. Xiao, safe with a soldier, watched his trust in Jason unshaken. Lisa's mind raced, the shrine's cycle a pulse in her veins. She spoke, her voice low. "Daniel, why did I reject you in 87? I saw your truth, your greed, your betrayal. That wasn't a dream. It was real. I died because of you." Daniel's hand shook, his reborn memories clashing with denial. "No, I'd never—" he stammered, but doubt cracked his resolve. Lisa seized the moment, twisting free, but Daniel lunged, knife raised. A shadow darted from the dusk. Ragged and fierce, Emily tackled him, wrenching the blade away. "You're nothing!" she screamed, plunging it into his chest. Emily's act was no accident. Reborn with memories of her past life's luxury and Lisa's pain, she'd trailed Daniel, her love curdled by his failures. Her market empire, lost to bad bets, had left her broken, the shrine's judgment heavy. "You promised me everything," she spat, stabbing again, "but you're worthless." Daniel's screams faded, blood pooling on the road. Soldiers rushed in, pulling Emily away, but Daniel's life ebbed, his final word, "Sorry," a futile echo across lifetimes. Emily cuffed and laughed, her eyes skyward, the shrine's curse complete. Lisa stumbled into Jason's arms, his heartbeat a tether. Xiao ran to them sobbing, and they held him close. After arriving with the crowd, Qingshan's elders bowed their heads, and the village's honor was restored by justice. Emily's trial was swift. Charged with murder, she faced execution, her face blank, as if the shrine had claimed her soul. The market whispered of her end, a cautionary tale. Lisa, shaken but whole, felt the cycle close. Daniel's greed, Emily's ambition, her pain, resolved in blood. The shrine, its hills silent, seemed to rest, its karmic scales balanced by truth and retribution. In the spring of 1996, Zhengzhou, Henan's bustling capital, pulsed with the energy of China's economic surge. High-rises pierced the skyline, their glass facades reflecting markets teeming with mobile phones and imported jeans. Yet, a quieter life thrived within the military post near the city. Barracks stood in neat rows, soldiers drilling under willows, their shouts mingling with the scent of steamed buns from the mess hall. Lisa, now 31, walked hand in hand with her son, Xiao, 8 and curious, through this disciplined world. Jason, her husband, and former battalion commander, followed. His scarred hand healed, and his smile was soft. The ancient shrine in Qingshan village's hills, its karmic cycle closed after Daniel's death and Emily's execution, had left them in peace. Lisa's journey, reborn by the shrine's will, had been a crucible. In her past life, Daniel's betrayal, choosing Emily and leaving Lisa and Xiao to perish in a Shenzhen fire, had fueled her second chance. Her 1987 trap in Qingshan, exposing Daniel and Emily's greed, and the 1995 reckoning, where Emily's frenzied stabbing ended Daniel's life, had sealed the cycle. Reborn as her son with Jason, Xiao was a living testament to her triumph. His chatter about the school, his kite soaring above the post, filled the void of her past loss. The shrine's power, stirred by the 1986 flood, had righted wrongs, its carvings now silent in Qingshan's hills. Their home, a modest apartment on the post, was a haven. Woven mats from Qingshan adorned the walls beside Xiao's drawings and Jason's service medals. Once Qingshan's heiress, Lisa, vested her dowry in a Zhengzhou school, teaching soldiers' children, and her days blended lesson plans with family, braiding Xiao's hair and sharing tea with Jason. The post's culture, a blend of military rigor and communal warmth, echoed Qingshan's spirit. Soldiers called her Teacher Lisa, their respect a nod to her 1987 legend, outwitting Daniel with market cunning, a tale still told in Henan's markets. Jason's military background shaped their life. His hand, crushed in the 86 flood while saving Lisa, had healed through therapy, though scars remained. In 1995, he retired from active command, and his years of securing Henan's rail lines and leading disaster relief earned him a teaching role at a military academy. At home, he shed his officer's sternness, crafting kites for Xiao or teasing Lisa with malt candy, their childhood treat. "You're still Qingshan's broom-wielding hero," he'd say, recalling her defending him from bullies. His love, steady through trials, anchored Lisa, contrasting with Daniel's flash. Qingshan, visited yearly, had modernized, paved roads, a new school, but retained its soul. Elders burned incense, gossiping under willows about Daniel and Emily's fall. Daniel's death and Emily's execution for murder had become folklore, a caution against greed. Emily, reborn with visions of wealth, had chased Daniel's success, only to end in a Henan prison, her laughter at trial chilling villagers. Lisa felt no malice, only gratitude for the shrine's justice. Safe from Daniel's grasp, her dowry funded Qingshan's library, a gift to the village that rallied behind her. Cultural tides framed their peace. China's 1990s boom brought TVs to the post, but Confucian values, family, loyalty held firm. Lisa and Jason raised Xiao with stories of Qingshan's fields, balancing old and new. Xiao, dreaming of becoming a pilot, soaked up Jason's tales of army marches, his trust in his parents unshaken by 1995's terror. The post's festivals, with lanterns and dumplings, mirrored Qingshan's feasts, binding their military family. Once isolated in Shenzhen, Lisa found community here, her laughter mingling with soldiers' songs. One evening, under a Henan sky streaked with stars, Lisa and Jason sat on their balcony, Xiao asleep inside. A radio played folk tunes, the post's bugle long silenced. "We've come far," Lisa said, her hand on Jason's. He nodded, his eyes tracing the hill's silhouette where the shrine stood. "You rewrote our story," he said. "The shrine chose well," Lisa smiled. Xiao's kite was on the table, and its colors were vivid. The ache of her past life, Daniel's betrayal, Xiao's loss, had faded, replaced by love's quiet strength. The shrine's cycle and karmic scales were balanced, with no shadows. Years passed, and their life had a steady rhythm. By 2000, Xiao had excelled in school, and his kite designs had won contests. Jason, graying but spry, taught strategy, his humor softening cadets' drills. Lisa's school grew, and her lessons shaped Henan's youth. Now, a small town, Qingshan honored them with a plaque, and their story was a lesson in loyalty. Reflecting on the shrine, Lisa felt only peace. Its gift had saved her and forged a family. As she shared malt candy with Xiao and Jason, laughter filling their home, she knew this life, earned through courage, was the shrine's most actual blessing.